last stand, and I came to deliver. Been called a Clinton operative, a Russian, and a grifter. By libs, a washing student debt, proud to be an intern, sucking up to pigs who get a tax cut in the midterms. You cut the ties but never heal the wrist burns. Capitalist shackles wrap and penetrate like ringworms around the necks of those whose deaths will not affect the king's purse or the coffers of the company the king serves, who manufacture mandated tinctures. Their safety data hanging from a fixture, half a mile skyward, just dangling from the rafters. My grift is sobbing till I'm cackling with laughter. I guess I would have made a decent actor. I'd be great at crying on command until they cut plus 40 minutes after. When the director waves a hand, it ain't a rap, it's now a legal matter. Honey, my grift is weeping on a mic until I'm hacking up airstrike verses like it's bombs away and batter up. Swinging on these bigots, they keep killing us to fatten up. Kill the switch, eat the rich, I think they're finally fat enough. Grab your knife and fork, the world is yours, just say you've had enough. And if you're comfy, you could go ahead and laugh it up. Tell me how the most important vote I'll ever cast is like the choosing of a bus, in that it might not take you anywhere you want, but no one can deny the fact the bus is now no longer where it was. And that's the kind of progress we should celebrate and trust. Spoken like a kid who never took a bus. Spoken like a piece of shit that used some cash to mask his stink and truly thinks he's one of us. Spoken like a terminally unserious person who equates our cries for rights to mixed up orders from a server. It paints a privileged picture of what you would label urgent if the worst thing you've experienced in life has been the time your waiter accidentally brought a tray of gold flake scallop when you clearly ordered gold flake urchin. And now you're storming out the restaurant and hopping in a Tesla. You got 80 pounds of Tony Fauci merchant.
Rewind to chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
Best to place your bets on weaponizing the identity of every limp progressive claiming grassroots integrity. Policy is a slippery slope for all of its complexity, so flex your brave resistance with this Ilhan Omar NFT. Numbered one of 723. Each depicts her valiantly championing a bill before she lays it at a donor's feet. And she can throw her hands up in the air with AOC and say if only Nina Turner could have voted present too, that's why we need another seat. We need some more progressives we elect to only tweet, who live to serve humana and their label of elective slapped on every patient's gravest needs. And every station plays the theme that medical professionals agree on the effectiveness and safety of injections authorized for this emergency. And in purely unrelated news, the profits of the ones who manufacture vaccines just increased by nearly 36 billion with a fucking B. Sometimes it feels like we're the only ones that see. Sometimes it feels like all of us are lost at sea. And every time we think we see an island on the tip of the horizon, it turns out to be another measure making sure we're kept within the watchful eye of murderous authority. And so I guess my grift is crying for the future they denied us, where the people who would buy us are a mockable minority. And we are more than genomes under warranty. And we are more than serfs in constant quarantine. If I had a single breath left, I'd let the chorus scream. I'd announce our leaders claiming none for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me.
Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry, it's been a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece, it's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat, they don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, "Not me, us," as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day, and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. 'Cause he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc. March of Dimes. Family fun run cancer bonanza. Front page of Apartheid Times. All of the charm of a car bomb. Arms wide open, taking no targets alive. Dark was the night, save for a red glow painting the sky in a sickening light. Like a scene out of hell or a day in an utterly alien life. When the fire runs wild. These are the years where the wild is more your daily drive. To wrestle the truth of extinction from out of the jaws of your pride. So open them wide, now is the time, there's nothing to fight. Blasted or sworn to defy. The end is the same and we're inches away from the line. So abandon your ego to die. The bed that we made is where we go to die. But never was passing in one's own sleep such a hideous sight. Such a storm of convulsion and vile expulsion from out of our mouths and our eyes. But these are the rights they implore us to exercise, with our signature forged and our hands all tied. And with eye contact and a senator's smile, they thank you for saving democracy right as they tighten the binds. Right when they're joining your chain to your neighbors, leading you out in a line. Call it the March of Dimes. One more charity parody. Hold back grants while we dance for the president's salary. Funding the bunkers where all of the wealthy will cower to witness our steepest decline. To err is a trait so inherently human. And to hoard enough wealth that you peacefully sleep when those humans are burning alive is truly divine. If divinity really means withered and fully decaying inside, you could live with yourself till you run out of wine and ring for a drone off a prime, skim a little off at the top of the March of Dimes. Sign of our system of capital, head to the sky with a hideous cry that mimics the suffering families out on the street that have built a career out of passing by, who were part of the great design, part of a citizen base with its fate resigned, part of a two-party system where both of the goals align, and the end result is more housing crisis than the plot device of 2009. Capitalism demanded a sacrifice, so I walk to the square, hand them my son, and they hand me the dice. I roll for his life. To an equal extent, you could say I was rolling for mine. I'd called any favor, I paid any bribe, but it's all up to me for the roll, so I close my eyes. And the sound of the crowd is the same for a 1 or a 5. Two equal outcomes playing as though they're on opposite sides. And I know in my heart that on 4 out of 6 he'll be fine. But I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. Nah, I can't seem to roll them, I can't let them go, I'm just holding them tight. I'm just holding them tight. Influencer TikTok, capitalist pig dog, immigration flip-flop lobbied via rim job, Met Gala airstrike, A-lister scrimshaw, paparazzi lip sip the scandal as it drips off. You know I'd love to meet our leaders that were tipped off. Back when COVID was a few of us with wicked coughs, and be like, sorry, Mr. Senator, that you don't speak in terms of human worth, just in kickbacks and dipped stocks. Then punch that motherfucker like a shift clock. Hurry back home to my stack of straw dolls with their limbs off, where Biden's on the screen and he's confusing Xi and Kim Jong, talking out his SIM card like someone plugged him in wrong, but then we hit the gist and suddenly his pitch drops. He whispers right at camera one with his fist balled. His words hang with the subtlety of a lynch mob as he says, rat your neighbor out and get a $5 voucher for the CIA gift shop. Hell, you'll even get a free stick of boot-flavored lip balm. 'Cause every day we make enough consent to fill a strip mall. So when I say eat the rich, I'm talking still raw, bone in, limb by greedy limb with a skill saw. Picture, if you will, a modern take on Naked Prey starring Bill Maher.
everyone, to the Politics of Survival, and I have with me a very courageous investigative journalist who is in the Donbass region in Ukraine as we speak live, and we're going to talk about her experiences. And she is a German investigative journalist that is also, because of her truth-telling, facing some problems back in Germany. They're actually and I'll let Alina tell you more about that. So welcome, Alina Lipp, and thank you for coming live from Ukraine.
Hello. Thanks.
Yeah, so your story caught my eye. Your journalism, by the way, is excellent. You've been reporting a lot. So can you just start telling the audience who you are and what, the journalism that you're trying to do from Ukraine right now?
Of course. I was born and grew up in Germany. I have a German mom and a Russian father, but he never talked to me in Russian, so I grew up as a typical German. I studied in Germany, have a master's degree in environmental conservation, actually. And after everything began in Ukraine in 2014, I noticed for the first time that there were big differences in what was going on there and what we were told in Germany in the news. So we have lots of family members in Russia, and we could, in my family, read the Russian news and heard from our relatives what was really going on there in Crimea and so on. And there were lots of cases where the German news really lied, or they only told half of the truth, And I got interested in politics. Because I studied environmental conservation, I joined the Green Party, which is nowadays really anti-Russian, but back then I didn't really notice that. And then I decided to go to Crimea to see everything with my own eyes. And when I came back, then problems started in this Green Party, and I've seen everything with my own eyes. I talked to these people there, and they told me, yes, we really want to be with Russia. We don't want to be with Ukraine anymore. And then I opened my first YouTube channel. I became a blogger, you can say, and in German, and told Germans about all this Ukraine, Crimea story. And after I finished studies last year, I came to Russia and met some person from Donetsk who invited me there. He organized a trip. It was very interesting for me. I've never been to Donbass before, and I reported about it, but I've never been there myself. And when I came here to Donetsk for the first time, I was impressed about this life. It was, I can tell about this afterwards, but to say it in one sentence, I was shocked about that. What was going on here, and what the Germans didn't tell. Right. And there were no German journalists here, and never been from the big news. And so because I just finished studies, I had time, and I decided to stay here and to cover the situation, because there's really no other no other person here in Donbass from Germany covering the situation, which is very sad and it's unbelievable. And now I'm almost here for almost a year. Yeah.
And then I was reading that, a lot of investigative journalists that are really covering Ukraine in a real way, in other words, providing balance in the reporting, are being targeted by different Western governments. And so you became a target of your own government. Is that true? And then what were the threats, and what kind of led up to now the paperwork that you got, threatening you basically with prison?
Yeah, I can't believe it either. I started here from zero, you can say. I opened a Telegram channel where I'm publishing videos from, most of the time I do interviews with people living here and translate it to German. And so I'm just photographing, making pictures, filming videos, translating this, telling what is going on here, basically, without my own opinion. And this was very successful, especially after they closed RT in Germany. And so the Germans themselves said in television that my channel was the biggest, most fastly growing channel in Germany. And then the big news started to write in a bad way about me, because, well, they have no correspondence here. They only show the Ukrainian opinion over there. So they directly from the beginning, they were talking about me in a really, really bad way. And then they closed my bank account. Well, first they closed PayPal because I'm independent. I get money only from the people that read me, from subscribers. And mainly I got this money over PayPal. So they freezed the money on PayPal and then, blocked it and deleted this account. And then they closed also my bank account, and then also about 2 months ago, the bank account of my father. It's unbelievable. And the latest thing 1 month ago about first I noticed they took money from my bank account, 1,600 euro, and didn't told me about it. They didn't explain. Nobody explained it to me for about a month. I didn't know what was going on. And then to Germany, I got this letter from, I don't know the English word well, but from authorities telling that they opened a criminal case against me because I'm supporting the Russian invasion, which is illegal. And if I support this is also a criminal act. And this is the reason why they took this money, because I earned money with my criminal act. So they decided to take this money from me. This is basically what this letter was telling. And the most unbelievable thing in this letter was the last sentence. We are not going to invite you to a hearing because this would threat our prosecution.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's that. Yeah. Okay. I'm not familiar with German, laws, but let's I wanted to kind of take this apart a little bit. First of all, how do they have the reach to go into your father's bank account? Okay, so they say that you've done something criminal, so they're shutting down. They're demonetizing people in the US and Canada too, but they don't go. But they went into your bank account, took money. But how did they shut down your father's? How do they even have the reach to do that?
I have to say, after they closed my bank account, we showed the data of the bank account of my father in my channel. So the people started to give me money over the bank account of my father. This is the reason.
So they shut it down too.
Yes, and actually, I was also surprised. We looked up the rules of this bank, and in the internet, it's really written there that they have the right to close any bank account anytime without giving a reason.
Really?
So this is legal, yes. And I have to say, on this bank account, they didn't froze the money, so. They wrote us, we are going to close your bank account, so move your money away to another bank account.
Okay. Did you get your 1,600 back, or has that just been absorbed into their criminal?
No, the 1,600 was taken by the authorities, the German authorities, and they didn't remove it so far.
So, you're a young, rising investigative journalist in a foreign country, because you're in Ukraine right now, and this is happening in Germany, your home country. So what does this mean for your future as far as going home? And what could you be facing if you went back to Germany right now?
Actually, some some friends told me some other journalists told me that probably if I'm now going back, they would take away my passport, so I couldn't leave the country again.
Okay.
And well, there have been cases where they put journalists without a reason into prison for some months.
Oh,
And afterwards releasing them, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, we are sorry."
Mhm.
I know those cases, and so I'm not going back. And
right.
the worst case would be that I have to go to prison for about 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So Alina, can you travel to the EU or to other countries freely, or are you kind of just?
I don't think so. I wouldn't do that now, because any country could say, they are searching for her, we are giving her to Germany. So
they would involve Interpol in that.
Maybe.
Interpol, okay.
So
I see. So what are you going to get an attorney? And again, if I ask you anything, sorry, my cat just jumped up. If I ask you anything that you don't feel comfortable or that, is too confidential, please feel free not to answer. Okay. But my question was just about if you're able to get an attorney right now or not. So
actually I have, because unfortunately, Germany is now a very, how to explain that, Russophobic country.
Yes,
well, that's lots of people hate Russians now because they are told in the television that Russia is killing civilians. So I somehow can understand the situation, but it got really, really bad. There were even cases where hospitals said we are not taking Russian clients anymore, or unbelievable things going on there. They're refusing. Yes.
They're refusing based on what country someone's from?
Yes.
That's
or restaurants, Russian restaurants, or Russian shops. Well, people just said, no, we're not going to buy on a Russian store anymore. Or there were some supermarkets who threw away all Russian products and so on. It's crazy what's going on there. And they even, and so there's now there's one political party in the in the German parliament that now founded how to say it, kind of a group with attorneys and deputies.
Dissidents? What?
Well, politicians in the parliament. What's the word?
Okay, representatives. Okay.
Representatives and attorneys. They founded some kind of association for defending the rights of Russians in Germany.
Oh.
And yes, and they offered me to defend me.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's good, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some pushback from some Germans who are like, no, we're not going to engage in this bigotry and Russophobia, right? So there's some,
of course,
Germans. Okay.
Well, we have about 6 million Russian Germans in Germany, so a huge part of Germans knows what is going on. They are reading Russian news and so on. They have relatives in Russia. They know the truth, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this must be incredibly stressful, because you were planning to go to the country for the time it took you to do the story, I assume. So now you're looking at this limbo state. So what are your next steps for yourself? Are you just going to continue to report from Donbass and, stay the course and try to fight legally, or what are your next steps?
Yes, I'm not going back to Germany.
Yeah.
And stay here in Donbass. Sometimes I'm in Russia and keep on working.
Keep on working. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of, like in the West, as you know, we don't get a lot of reporting, which is why I follow you and Patrick Lancaster and, you know, Ava Bartlett. And they both have faced threats, death threats. Ava Bartlett, as you know, is on a kill list with the Ukrainian military.
Me
Are
too.
you deal with any of that, or are you relatively safe? How are you doing with that?
Already last year in November, Ukrainian authorities also put me on this kill list. So practically everybody who's coming here is going on this list. There's even a 13-year-old girl from Lugansk, Faina is her name. She's writing books already about her life in in a war zone, actually. Very smart young girl, and she's also on this kill list now. It's unbelievable.
Oh, how horrible. And, you know, I mean, it must be stunning for you then to see the United States giving $57 billion in weapons to Ukraine to fight this proxy war against Russia and NATO countries, included.
I can't understand this point, because I know this is war, but this war here in Donbass began not 5 months ago, but 8 years ago. And since 8 years, this was the moment that shocked me when I came here the first time. I went to it's called the gray zone between Donbass and Ukraine. And this is where, the soldiers, you can say, are shooting every day on each other for 8 years. And in this gray zone, there are civilians living. And what I didn't know, and I thought this conflict is between soldiers from both, killing each other. But in fact, what is going on here is that for 8 years, the Ukrainian soldiers are killing civilians in this gray zone. So I met lots of people without legs, without arms, with other, I don't know what happened to them. Every house was somehow shot or partly broken down because the Ukrainians shot on these people or on the houses. It's so shocking.
That's horrific.
Yeah.
And go on with that. What are some of the main myths that you're trying to dispel that the Western media, the corporate media, is pushing? Could you talk about what's really happening? You mentioned for 8 years they've been terrorizing the civilian population, their own, the Ukrainian military. What don't we know in the West that you'd like to get across about what's happening right now?
Yeah, that for 8 years, Ukrainian soldiers are terrorizing civilians in the Donbass region, because for them, the people here are not humans. They even are saying this. If you would speak Russian, you find lots of videos from Ukrainians in the internet where they are saying this is not humans. We have to kill them. They even camps for children, where they are shouting those paroles like we have to kill all Muscovite is the word for it, Muscovites. So all Russians, this is not humans, and so on. So they, for 8 years, they, how to say it? I don't know the word for it, but there are even camps for children where they teach this stuff. And there are lots of radical groups like Azov or the Right Sector and so on that are integrated in the Ukrainian army officially. And those people, for them, those are really Nazis, but not against Jews. In this case, they are against Russians. So they really want to kill all Russians. And this is why they, by the way, in 2014, when the Ukrainian government started this attack It was a Ukrainian president sending the Ukrainian army to attack the civilians in Donbass. The president himself gave this directive, yes. And the army came here, and they didn't really want to fight. There are lots of videos still there on the internet showing where the tanks were coming, and they didn't really want to kill their own people, right? And that's why the president sent this radical groups like Azov and the right sector, and mainly they are killing the civilians now here in Donbass, who have been killing for the past 8 years, and they are still going on with this. And now they even have this NATO weapons they can use, and they can now not only kill civilians on the border, but here also in the city center of Donetsk. So what I have been through the last month is not funny at all. They are shooting about almost every day with these NATO weapons. There's no safe place left in Donetsk, even in the city center where it has been safe in the last years. There's really no safe place left, and every day civilians are dying. And this is horrible because there's so much. There are lots of channels on Telegram, for example, where bloggers from Donetsk publish those videos where, I don't know, of short schools. They are especially shooting on hospitals, on schools, kindergartens, and the fire station a few weeks ago, or the main streets with cafes and so on. They really do it on purpose because they know the geo data, right?
So oh my God. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's okay.
I was just going to ask, so how do you deal with that on a daily basis when you walk out the door to go to a cafe or to go to the grocery store? Are you dealing with safety issues every single day as a result of this?
Well, they're not shooting every minute, so you just wait until they are not shooting anymore for about an hour, and then you go. Most of the time they're shooting for an hour, and then a few hours not, and then they start again. So this is how we live here. And it happens that you are in a restaurant sitting outside on the terrace, nice weather, eating some ice cream, and then they're starting to shoot, and you're just listening to this. It started there. Now you hear this meow over your head, and you listen. How far is it coming down? Is it closer or not, or far away? And then you go.
And for our audience, because when we think of military, we're visualizing a battlefield actually, but what you're describing are civilians trying to go about their daily life and being basically on a front line. So that the soldiers are they targeting civilians as well as the soldiers, or just are civilians collateral damage in this case?
No, they kill civilians on purpose because most of the men are at the front. So in the city center, we are still there.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? You're doing fine.
Hello.
We can see you. Hello. We can see you and hear you. It looks like Alina's having. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
You were here the whole time. We could hear you, but apparently you couldn't hear us.
Oh, okay.
So my question was regarding civilians being targeted.
Yes. Yeah. Most of the men are at the front right now. So in the city center, we only have women, kids, and older people. And well, about 2 weeks ago, we had the case that politically active, well, not children anymore. What is the name for it? Well, young people who were politically active. They had a big meeting. Well, young girls and young girls and boys who are actively, I don't know, supporting some ecology projects or projects to help kids or so on. No, they met up, about 20 of them, and the Ukrainians on purpose shot on this building where they met.
Oh.
So, and they killed lots of this young people. So, and this is not a single case. It's horrible what is going on here, and it's for me it's unbelievable that the West still is going on with delivering these weapons to the Ukrainian army, because they are killing civilians here. I can't understand it.
Is any human rights organization at all looking into this, the civilian casualties? Is anyone stepping up? Or is the West just simply, basically lying to everyone and just funding this proxy war? I
can only say that we had here in the city the OECD, OSCE, for the last 8 years, and they left in the beginning of the special operation, and there were lots of what is it? Well, it came out that the OBCE published data, especially geodata, gave geodata to the Ukrainians about positions, where the positions of the Donetsk or Lugansk army was, and so on, were.
So they were talking.
So they practically acted like agents. They found out where the positions are and gave this data to the Ukrainians. So they were supporting the Ukrainian side.
So they're colluding with Ukraine to go after civilians. That's what it sounds like.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And as far as, over the weekend, there was some reports of Ukraine dropping. At first they thought it was phosphorus. Now it's something else. So that happened as well.
Yeah, it's not phosphor, but it was a lightning bomb. Yeah. Yes. It's also dangerous if it gets in touch with the skin, for example. But it's not that bad as phosphorus. But it's still it's unbelievable that they are doing this.
It's illegal illegal to use that weapon. I see.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because meanwhile, Ukraine is applying to be part of NATO and part of the EU, and they're using these weapons illegally, and they're targeting civilians and they're targeting journalists. So it's really stunning to see the hypocrisy from the West about what's allowed in a conflict versus,
Yeah. So the West is you can really say it, that the rest is supporting Nazis, and delivering to them weapons to kill civilians. I don't understand what is going on there, and I don't understand why nobody is understanding that. Well, too many people support that, especially this Green Party now in Germany, where I've been.
Now the Green Party here in the United States is more is not necessarily aligned with this conflict at all. So it's interesting how in the Western countries, how the different political parties kind of fall out in different ways. But one of the parts of the reporting that I noticed is that you talked about that the Russian nationals that live in the Donbas region were happy to see the Russian soldiers, and you reported on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I never met a single person that wasn't happy about what is going on. And the other way around, I filmed so many people with tears in their eyes when we talked about this topic. They told me so many horrible stories about the last years, how they were suppressed by the radicals, Azov and so on, that lived between them, and there were young women disappearing and horrible things going on. And now they really hope that everything is changing now for the better. They support Russians. I always, when I'm talking to those people, I'm always asking them if they have seen something, if they have seen Russian soldiers doing something bad, and everyone is answering like, no, why are you asking those questions? They are always helping. They did this, then they did that, and they help with, lots of stories. And
yeah, I saw the delivery of food and of supplies and of medical supplies from Russia to the Donbass region, right? And they were trying to distribute that through the population. Is that true?
Yes, yeah, and it's huge. The work the humanitarian aid they are doing now it's huge, really. And the people don't have anything left because I've been to lots of cities where the Ukrainians destroyed, especially the granaries. Well, lots of wheat and so on, like grains, and oil markets, water filter stations, and so on. So they especially destroyed them when they noticed that they are going, that they are not going to win, and before they left the cities, they destroyed everything. And yeah, I filmed this. So.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so you're there with other, I assume, journalists. Are you meeting any journalists from the West at all, or any showing up, or is it mostly, just investigative journalists?
Mostly it's independent investigative journalists coming here from the West, and luckily from lots of countries now. So I met a French, a British, Greek, Italian, from the US, from Australia. It's great. It's great, actually. And for the first time, a week ago, we had a German journalist here from the official news. He was taking part on a press tour. And afterwards, they were asking him questions in the German television, and he answered, well, the truth for the first time on German television. He said, they asked him, where did you feel the war going on the most? Understood? Where you really felt this war going on? Well, because he was traveling to lots of areas in the South Ukraine, and he answered the worst place, with the worst and most dangerous place, was Donetsk. So there was some truth in German television, and he said he can't believe that this war is going on already for 8 years for the people in Donbass, and imagine if you have kids and you have this life for 8 years and so on. Well, it was great that he said those things. And I think if more journalists would come here, they wouldn't lie. But I had to talk to a German boss of a television channel, and I asked him why he's not sending journalists to Donbass, and he said, "I know it wasn't a boss; it was a journalist it was a journalist." And he said, "I'm not. My boss is not paying me for this, so he wouldn't send me."
So, as far as like, do you feel like there's going to be a shift and there's less support for Ukraine? Because as we're listening to different Western countries, including the US, but particularly Germany is facing a very cold winter and some economic hardships as a result of their stance on this conflict. Do you feel like the German people are shifting and you're seeing less of those Ukrainian flags in like the social media bios? And you know what I mean? Is the propaganda, in other words, falling apart for Germany a bit?
I think something is changing, yes. In the beginning, they were more radical, the Germans against Russians and so on. But now more and more, even politicians are talking about this fact that the sanctions hit Germany, especially not Russia, and that the German government is destroying whole economy and so on. And more people are seeing this, of course. I mean, it's very expensive now to well, lots of products are much more expensive now, and water, gas, and so on. So, yeah, I think there is a shift, and it will be, I think this cold winter will change a lot for the Germans.
Yeah, because they rely on Russian gas for heating their homes and using hot water and all the other things that one uses. And then, of course, there'll be shipping issues with food and all kinds of things. So how do you think that will shift Germany's position? Do you think that they'll finally loosen up and allow the truth to come forward and not be a sort of a vassal state for the US or a NATO? Or what do you think will happen?
I think the German government is keeping on with this.
I see.
Yeah.
They're making progress from the military?
I think so, because the German government is doing everything the states are telling them, actually. I mean, they have Nord Stream 2. It's ready. They could just buy this gas and get it as much as they want. Yeah. But they don't do it because the US is against it, and the US wants to sell to Germany their own gas. So
and ship it across the Atlantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fracking gas.
Is the cost, higher the cost. Okay. That doesn't make a lot of sense from a fiscal point of view, like from money point of view, but if that's, that's interesting. So that the Italian government dissolved, Boris Johnson's resigned, Macron has lost his majority in France. Merkel's gone, but now you have this new German chancellor, but he's losing all kinds of support. Do you see?
He will be the next.
So they've been talking about regime change. Like, it seems to me the only changes are happening in the Western governments. What is your take on that from your position, where you're at?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. But I have the feeling that Scholz is, he's criticized a lot. Yeah. And so lots of politicians now in Germany are criticized a lot, as this Annalena Baerbock, for example, the foreign minister. She's really, not the most intelligent person. And lots of people are asking all day how they got to this positions. And everybody's seeing now what is going on there. So they have to pay huge money for filling up the gas for the cars and so on. And I think there are already now lots of demonstrations lots of people supporting now Russia and so on, showing this openly and criticizing the government. So we'll see. If the winter will be cold, there will be more people like that.
I'm sure if it starts really affecting them. Yeah. So Reef, while we've been chatting, I know that people have been asking questions and making comments. Are there any questions or comments for Alina that you'd like to share?
Yes, there are a few. Hold on, let me find them. Okay, so out of everything that has happened so far, what is the most shocking you have reported or heard of? Asked Yipper99.
Can you say it again, please? The most shocking what?
Shocking thing you've reported on or have heard of in Ukraine.
This was a story in Mariupol in April. I've been there in April when they were still shooting there. It was very dangerous. And I've been to the center, and I found lots of dead bodies near to a hospital. And lots, by the way, Lancaster also reported about the story. There were lots of dead bodies with tied arms. And I had some talks to some civilians living around there, and they told me officially there was the information that they are evacuating civilians from this hospital, so lots of people came there. But Azov went into this hospital, and they it seems to be that they how is it? Well, they kept these people there, and in the end they shot them.
They held them hostage and assassinated them?
Yes, and there was a woman telling me that they first killed all doctors. And and then in the end they killed, I don't know, the patients and the people that came to this hospital. And there were lots of dead bodies lying there, and this was horrible. And but by the way, this was the first moment where I noticed that for myself, I changed a lot in this month. So I came here, I never saw a dead body before, and when I first saw one, it was horrible. I had lots of emotions, and I needed to rest from this experience. And then in this moment, I stand there in Mariupol, filming this, doing a commentary and so on, and then I just went away, and I had no emotions anymore. This is not good. And by the way, I noticed that lots of kids are not normal here. They grew up here in war, and they can tell what kind of weapon has been used by the Ukrainians, and lots of details they can tell you, and they have no fear anymore. There was one kid telling me that he has no emotions anymore, no happiness, no fear, nothing. And this is probably the worst thing going on here, because those children are growing up with hatred and so on, and not good.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. A lot of trauma. So that kind of leads to this question I have real quick, Reef, before you ask another. How are you helping yourself do your job, and you know what I mean, with that kind of secondary trauma that you're experiencing and seeing so much violence and so much horrific, and then this non-response from the West except to give weapons? It must be horrible. Yeah.
I'm regularly taking some days off, going to Russia. So about every month for a couple of days, I'm going to Russia. My father moved to Crimea now from Germany. Well, already 4 years ago, and Crimea is very beautiful. Yes. So I can really get a rest there. I have family around me, good food, the sea, and I can talk about what I've seen and so on. And this helped a lot. If I would stay here all the time, I would wouldn't be good. I noticed that other war correspondents really are not normal anymore, and I don't want to become such a person actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, and it does, war changes, and that kind of trauma will change everyone. And that's why it needs to end. Do you see, because you're boots on the ground and you're seeing things every day, do you see an end in sight, or a resolution, something in sight, or do you feel like this is going to go on for the next, through the winter and into the next spring?
No, I think for the Donbass, it's finally ending. By the way, right now, yesterday, the Donbass, well, Donetsk and Lugansk, they started a big offensive against the positions, the Ukrainian positions from where they are shooting the cities. Well, from where they're shooting Donetsk. It's especially Avdiivka, a small city next to Donetsk. And today and yesterday, there was aviation, well, in the sky, and lots of rockets going from here to the Ukrainian side this time. And there's a lot going on right now, and I think and I hope it's going to end soon, so that they are now destroying finally all these positions of the Ukrainians now. Okay. And what is going on afterwards, I can't say, but I can, if I'm listening to Putin and Lavrov openly saying that, yeah, they wouldn't allow the Ukrainians use this US HIMARS rockets, who can fly about 300 kilometers. That means directly to Russian territory. And Kiev is, I don't know, 200 kilometers away from the Russian border. So that means maybe the Russians are going to Kiev again. Yeah, it will be interesting the next weeks.
Yes, the next few weeks will be interesting, very pivotal for this conflict. As far as being on the military kill list, even though your government was obviously upset about your reporting, are they at least providing you some protection or assurances about this military kill list, or are they just not caring about your safety and well-being? Is that your feeling about the German government?
No, they don't care about me at all. Nothing.
Very sad to hear. Well, one of the problems that led up to this, you mentioned this started 8 years ago, and as you know, Julian Assange revealed the U.S. and NATO involvement with a coup in Maidan in 2014 that led to this different kind of puppet government that's more amenable to the West, right? And those emails and things were revealed of the plan for the coup. And so it feels like all of those events that happened in that it led to this moment, the expansion of NATO eastward and that coup, and then this sort of aggressive Russophobia from the West. Do you sense and feel, because of the economic shift that's gone against the West, right, because of all the sanctions and all the things, do you think, watching all of this, that the West will have to back off a bit eventually soon because of the economic harm that it's suffering? Or do you feel this is how it's going to be now for the generation?
I think the West has to back off. And I think this conflict now, this is not between Russia and Ukraine. This is between Russia and the whole West. And if Russia is going to lose, if Russia will lose, the West will destroy Russia. And the other way around, I don't think so. I think Russia just wants to remove this Nazi government in Kiev and wants to protect Donbass. And if they achieve this goal, they wouldn't go further. And they want, and if they will be successful with this, the West, of course, has to back off. because there's no other way.
Well, from the beginning, Russia's made it very clear that they simply just didn't want their NATO. It was diplomacy was available. There could have been diplomacy. So the West chose to up the rhetoric and push this. But what, are you hearing any? Because in the West, I'm not hearing anything about diplomacy. There's nothing in the Western media that talks about diplomacy inroads or a way to bring an end to the conflict or a way to stop sending the money. I mean, I think it was just Friday. There's another several hundred million that is going to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the U.S. economy, I'm sure you've read, is failing. Our inflation is the highest it's been in 41 years. And people are homeless and not able to access food. For a while, we couldn't get baby formula. Fuel prices are high. So America's not in a position to be fighting some proxy war with Russia and not take care of its U.S. citizens. So, I guess are you hearing anything on the ground about diplomacy between Ukraine and Russia, or is this aggression just continuing?
Well, from the Russian side, I'm hearing this, but from the Ukrainian, not. It was like that in the past years. So Russia always offered to do some contracts and so on, but it seems to be that the West wanted this war to happen.
Yeah.
So they have to take the consequences.
Yeah. So Reif, were there any other important questions or comments that you'd like to highlight?
What was the best food you had in the Crimea? Was asked.
In Crimea.
Mm-hmm.
In Crimea.
The best food that you have?
Actually, it's fruits in Crimea. There's even subtropical climate, and they have unbelievably nice fruits growing there. Like everything, really everything is growing there. My father, he has now. He sold everything in Germany. He has a company and so on. But now he has only a garden and is growing there lots of great fruits and vegetables. And they have a very different taste than in Europe. I never tried such a thing before. There's lots of aroma. I can only recommend you to go to Crimea. It's the most beautiful place for me.
Does sound beautiful. Now, there has been discussion about, about Ukraine has talked about being aggressive towards Crimea, and Russia said that is off the table. Like that is not going to happen. So has that died down now? Have they stopped saying that rhetoric about trying to take Crimea? The Ukrainians.
Can you say it again, please?
The West has been using rhetoric, some of the Western countries and Ukraine, saying they want to try to take back Crimea.
Yeah,
that's the rhetoric they use. So, what are you hearing? Is Crimea safe from that kind of nonsense, or what?
I think it's safe because Crimea has the best air protection system, rocket protection system in whole Russia. And so I think it's safe. Russia will never give back Crimea. Never.
Right.
And the people don't want it, really. I've been there lots of times. I spent so much time there in Crimea. The people really want to be with Russia.
Yeah, it was 95% of the people voted to be with Russia. Well, because they get the Russian benefits and be part of it's a very stable country. And so now the ruble is one of the highest currencies in the world. So has it been interesting as a journalist to see the flip, to see how, Russia's actually not only survived sanctions, but has thrived. And now the ruble is... Of course. And I see it every day, especially in Crimea when I'm going there. It's there's so much happening in the last months and in the last years. Lots of... they do the streets and houses and so on, and infrastructure for tourists. Everything is getting more and more beautiful than it was already. And
yeah, I don't see the sanctions are working in Russia, not at all.
Yeah, there you go. So one of the ways that U.S. citizens or Western citizens push back against what the government is doing by funding all these weapons, participating in a proxy war against Russia, trying to amp up this, but they're doing it they're doing it with manufactured consent. They're not doing it with the consent of U.S. citizens or Western citizens a lot of times. And so I'm participating in a conference, and Reef, if you could put this up, that's coming up in Chicago, and it's anti-imperialism. We're calling out the imperialism. So you have a lot of people that are against what the U.S. is doing by giving, weapons to Ukraine and all of that. Are you seeing this? And so for the audience members that are watching, I'm going to be in Chicago, August 6th. Caleb Maupin invited me. It's the Center of Political Innovation. Please go to their website on this poster. They do need fundraising and they do need help putting on this conference. So the links are available there. But what are you seeing these kinds of events happening in Germany? Are you seeing some kind of a pushback from some people that are wanting to push back against imperialism at all?
Yeah, there are people who are against it, but they can't really organize themselves. There are some demonstrations, but no, it's not helping at all. The propaganda is so good.
Yeah.
They really showed no truth at all in the German television, and most of the people just don't understand nothing. And now want to get a cold shower to hurt Putin.
Before we close off, because our time is almost done here, I wanted to say, is there anything else that you'd like to let people know? Because a lot of the listeners to this particular podcast that I'm on are in Europe or Australia or the United States. And we're not getting a lot of information that you have to provide. So is there any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave with the audience about the situation and your situation?
I would like to say that I can only recommend everybody to go at some time to Russia, because it's only because of the propaganda. Lots of people, especially in the Western countries, think in a bad way about Russians and so on. But everybody that I'm meeting here from the West, the Western journalists, they have no words about the Russian way of life, how the Russians are, because the Russians really love Western culture, Western languages. They are always interested. You would directly get invited if you just met a person on the street, and everybody's helping. And this, it's hard to describe, but lots of people, when they come here for the first time, they stay here or they come here again for lots of times because they really like it. I really can recommend it. The Russian soul is very special and very nice.
Yes, it is 1,000 years of beautiful culture and literature and science and innovation.
It's good. It's really good people here.
Wouldn't it be, Alina, wouldn't it be amazing if the 57 billion that was just sent to Ukraine for weapons was used to help people and for innovation? Wouldn't that have been nice?
Of course.
Using it to harm. Yeah. As far as cooperation and all of that and innovation, it would be nice to see that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I do know that Zelensky removed a lot of the media from Ukraine, and so is that another obstacle to getting out the reporting? Is so much of it was shut down or removed from Ukraine?
Of course, they shut down all channels who were telling in a positive way or even in a neutral way about Russia. So a big censorship, very huge. They even arrested some person, journalists disappeared or were killed, pro-Russian ones, and I can't understand how the West is supporting this system. Why?
Yeah, and you don't see the stories in the West about it. You have to have it uncovered, and that's why we're all so grateful for the work that you're doing. And I mentioned earlier Julian Assange, and as you know, he's facing up to 175 years in prison. Even though he's an Australian citizen, he's being transported from Belmarsh Prison in England to the United States under the Espionage Act, and he published war crimes of the West, and he did so legally, and those stories have all held up. And in fact, they were reprinted by other Western journalists, but he is being charged with that. And it's a terrible travesty of justice. He should be let go. Many of us believe that. But it also sets a precedent. And now I see what's happened to you, where you've been demonetized, deplatformed, and then, of course, now you're facing prison yourself. So, what can you say to young people that are starting out in journalism? Like, I mean, this is pretty daunting, but how are you dealing with that? Like losing your freedom just for telling the truth?
Actually, I feel better than I was before, because I feel that I'm standing on the right side. I know that, and because of this work, I got to know so many great people, so many new friends, so many. I don't know. It's better than any movie, the life I have now. Even if I'm here in Donetsk and they are shooting, because it's important, and I feel this, and I don't know. It's lots of energy you get because you're doing good. You're doing the right thing, and this is the purpose of journalism. The purpose of journalism is to show things that other people don't want to show you. So
thank you. So there you have it. And you are a very you are very important. Your work is very important. So thank you so much for all of you.
Thank you too.
And so to those of you that are listening and watching, please do support Alina Lipp's work. You can find her Telegram channel. There are links below here in the podcast, and we'll be featuring this on different platforms as well as Substack. So please follow her work and support her in what she does. And do you have links where people can support you as well and support your journalism available? Yes. Okay, great. So please do that, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us. This was a very serious discussion about a very horrific time in Ukraine. And Alina, I'm glad that you were able to join us. So thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. And thanks for watching us.
All right. All right, everyone, that's it. We'll see you next time on the Politics of Survival. Take care.